Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to create a pivot table. And if you've never worked with pivot tables, don't worry, they're very simple. And I'll show you exactly what you need to do. So what you're first going to want to do is highlight columns G through K, and then you're going to go into Data, Pivot Table, and you're going to want to create a manual pivot table. You should already have the data, the G through K populated like we highlighted. You're going to say New Worksheet, and OK. Okay, and you'll see a screen like this with a builder. So just follow along with what I'm doing. So we're going to put time as a row label. You're going to drag date as a report filter. And then you're going to move low, normal, and high BG into the values. And it'll come up as count. So we want to go to info and change count to average. So we want to do that for all three. So just click on the little I button, and then average. Great. And then you can X out of this little builder. And you'll see some error messages and things. So what you want to do is make sure the pivot table is clicked on, and you'll click here on pivot table. First thing, let's get rid of the totals. That'll mess things up maybe. So unclick the totals and the subtotals, and then you'll go to options. And for me, this is always unchecked, but I always check it. So where it says show error values as, just click this button and leave it blank. And then you'll see all of the things that used to be an error are now gone. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create the chart. So what I want you to do is highlight the entire pivot table. So if you hold down Control-Shift and just hit down, you should be able to get all of the columns. And I have a blank one, so I'm not going to include that. But once you have the entire chart highlighted, you'll go to Chart, Scatter, Marked Scatter, and you'll see something like this that doesn't really make a lot of sense. For me, it usually comes up at the bottom, so I just cut and paste. So I Command X, and then I'll scroll all the way to the top, and then I'll Command V, and paste it back in. I also delete the legend and stretch the chart. It also sometimes is easier when you're viewing things to get rid of, I go to Layout and Grid Lines, just to make things a little cleaner. Okay, now this chart doesn't make a lot of sense to you right now because it has data from every single day, so it won't make a lot of sense, but you will want to use that data. So the first thing you'll do is create, let's say, average BG, so average blood glucose, and I create a formula for that. So for me, average blood glucose equals average of everything here. So I had about 869 columns. So I'm saying B5 to D, I'll say just like 1,000, just to be safe. Okay, so it will populate your average blood glucose. So for me, that's 113.8. I don't really like it that specific, so I'll just get rid of some of the decimals. Okay, and then with that information, we can then calculate an average A1C, or estimated A1C, we'll call it. And the formula for that, so you'll take this value that you just calculated and add 46.7 in parentheses, and then you're going to divide that by 28.7. Okay, and again, you don't need to go specific. Okay. And I just sort of do some formatting things, but it's not that important. Okay, now what you are going to want to do in order to keep these stable is you can just rewrite the numbers, so I can just type in 114 and 5.6. If you wanted to be fancy, you can just copy and paste the values only just to get rid of the formula, because if you don't get rid of the formula, the numbers will change as you change the dates. Okay, and now what you can do is if you look, if you unselect the data and then just pick a certain day, you'll see your 24-hour time chart. Now, there are some things we want to fix. So if you go into the chart, right-click the x-axis and say Format the axis. Max, we want to change these a little bit. So I like to put the maximum at 1, major unit at 0.125, and that's it. Basically what that will do is give me a 24-hour window where you see markings for every 3 hours. And then on the y-axis, you also want to format it. So you format axis. And you want these to not be on auto. So we're going to set, for me, my maximum is 250. Whatever your maximum value is, you can change it to 500, 400, 300, whatever you want. And I'll do major units of 50. But just make sure these are unchecked, because if these are checked, then for every day the axis is going to change. Okay, great. And if you want to get fancy, you can change the colors like I do. So I make the top ones yellow with no lines. I make the middle ones green, again with no lines. And I make the bottom ones red. Okay. Okay, you can also add in another thing here, which I usually do is today's BG, and you'll say it's going to equal the average of, again, B5 to D, I'll just go 1000. There's my decimal points. And if you leave that formula in, you'll see it'll change. So right now I'm on January 2nd and my average BG was 143 for the day. If I go to the 8th, it drops to 131. If I go to the 9th, it's 116. So you can see your average blood glucose will change every day. Okay. Okay, if you want to get creative and add a title to the chart, you go to chart layout. Once you've selected the chart, chart title, title above chart, and then make sure you're clicked in here, and then go into the formula bar and type in equals chart, and then it'll have the date for you. One thing to note is if you have more than 90 days of readings and you want your A1C to just be the past 90 days, what you can do is only select the dates over the past 90 days and then use that data when you create a formula. Alright, and last but not least, I'll show you how I make the just table to see, if you want to track maybe on the days that you run, how does your blood sugar change, or on the days that you have a certain breakfast, let's say, what is your average blood sugar on those days versus others. So if you go to a new sheet, I'm going to call this test run. So come up with some yes, no, or binary. So for me, it'll be run today. Did I run today? And I'll put that in C4. And so I'll put date before that, and then run today. So start plugging the date. So I think my earliest date was 12/31/2014, and then I have 1/1/2015. And once you create a couple, you can just drag it down. And mine goes until 1/26. And you input your data here. So I'm just going to make it up for now. So then what you want to do is create a little 2x2 where you have average BG and estimated A1C here, and then we'll say ran, did not. Okay. And then what we're going to say is we want to pull the average blood sugar from all these, so you can also add a column that says average BG. And this is going to be a formula where you say average if. We're going to go back to the raw data. So average if the date column equals this date, then you're going to average the B column. Okay, so this will give you an average for that day. We're going to have to go to some decimal points. So for each day, here's my average blood sugar. And we have whether or not I ran or not. So I'm going to move. Okay. So now what we want to say is we're going to do a set of average if So in this case, we want to get my average blood sugar on days that I run. So if this column equals yes, so if I did run, then I want you to average these numbers. Great. Versus average if, we're going to say if this range equals no, so if I did not run, then we're going to average the blood sugar. Okay, and then again we have this formula where you take this guy plus 46.7 divided by 28.7, you can extract that. Okay, so in this hypothetical example, my sugars were pretty similar, but you can use this technique to understand on days that you run what happens to your blood sugar versus days you don't, or days that you have, again, a certain breakfast or something. Alright, that'll do it for this video. I hope you found it informative and motivating. And let me know in the comments if you have other ways that you use your Dexcom data to help inspire you through your journey. So, yeah, look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.